Good evening to all. A warm good evening to all. Is it audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Today we are moving on to the last concept of the model 6, that is environmental, economic and environmental aspects of electric vehicles. So far we have discussed on uh, introduction to electric vehicle, mathematical modeling of electric vehicle, that is different components of electric vehicle. Then how energy is going to be flow from the battery to the wheel, and some problems on those electric powertrain. Then different types of chargers, that is level 1, level 2 and level 3 chargers, and their operations and architecture. Then battery management system. After the battery management system, we have discussed on smart charging. Then design of charging stations. Now we are moving to the last concept, that is economic and environmental aspects of electric vehicle. This is a general discussion. We are moving on from the technical to the general aspects. So whatever we do, it's only with respect to the society and environment. We do build an AC engine, we do build an electric vehicle, we do build an aerospace, we do build any app, we do anything else. It's always connected to the society, whether it is harmful to the society or it pollutes the society or it benefits the society. So society means is nothing but the someone that is the users. So the both it is concerned with respect to the financial aspect and environmental aspect. So society is nothing but we, what we are living in the society, the peoples, the customers that are going to buy or any product that should be financially feasible, and once we should get the approval from the government, that should be the environmental friendly. So both the things we need to meet in any manner, in any case, or in any domain or area. If you are doing something, means we are inventing something, means you are going to research something, means it should be financially economically feasible, and it should not harmful to the environment. Both the things you should meet. So in the way, in the same way, once we design the electric vehicle, what are these economical considerations, how much it is going to be cost, and what whether it going to be affect the environment. Both the things, how it is going to be benefit if we buy the electric vehicle, how it is going to be benefit for the society. Both the things we need to take care of. So that is nothing but the economic and environmental aspects of electric vehicle. So after this learning this environmental aspect and economic aspect of the electric vehicle, so we should have the you should complete this course outcomes. So that is, we should know explaining the economic aspects of the electric vehicles, perform cost to benefit analysis, calculating the operating costs, estimate carbon emissions, understand government policies, and evaluate environmental impact. These things should be known once you complete this chapter. So coming to the economic and environmental aspects of electric vehicle, why it is important, why this analysis or economic analysis and environmental analysis is important, and why it is a global perspective. We need to think of not the local or state wise or Indian wise, national wise, is why it is a global perspective, and whether it is a sustainable transportation. With that area, with that concern also we need to think. So all these three parameters are very important. As the first point is why it is importance, analysis of economic and environmental aspects of an electric vehicle, why it is more important, why you need to think of these things, this electrical vehicle. Because nowadays the transportation sector is one of the largest consumer of fossil fuels. So in addition to the power plant, and in addition to the power plant, compared to the power plant where they are using the fossil fuels, so transportation is the one of the major sector of consuming fossil fuels. and it gives the major contribution to the greenhouse emissions because it emits the carbon dioxide, it emits the sulfur dioxide, it emits the uh, NH6, nitrogen oxide. Those things are the very harmful for the environment and for the human beings also. So there is a when we the rapid urbanization. So when we are India is a country where most of the peoples are come from the village background initially, but when we are living in the village, the contribution of the carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide to the environment is very less because we are living in the village means we have the land, we are going to we are going to do the work in the agricultural background. So most of the things are not polluting the environment. So when when we are moving from village to the town or to the urban, then our life of moderation also exposed. So we, if we have in our family, if we have the two persons, two male persons or maybe anybody working, if you have the two persons or three persons are working in the agricultural or it may be in the any profession, each one have the vehicle. So if the three persons are there in the vehicle except female persons, so now if the female persons also working means they have the individual identity and they have the individual vehicle, not particularly the electric vehicle. Most of the cases 80%, 80 to 90% is belongs to the IC engine vehicles. So when it is urbanizing, so the amount the quantity of vehicles, not particularly electric vehicle, quantity of vehicles that are releasing to the road are more compared to the when we were in the village. So when the quantity of vehicles that are releasing to the road are more, then there are more pollutant to the environment. So so this is important to know the electric vehicle with respect to the energy security and environmental sustainability. So electric vehicles provide an alternative for the IC engine vehicles by utilizing electrical energy instead of fossil fuels, that is petroleum based fuels. Thereby it reduces the dependency on the oil, lower operating cost and improved air quality. Understanding the economic and environmental applications of electric vehicle adoption is essential for engineers and policymakers and researchers working towards the sustainable energy, sustainable transportation system. So that's why when anybody working on the research of electric vehicle or transportation, or it may be a environmental impact, sustainable development, sustainable energy policies. So this is important of knowing the economic and environmental aspects of electric vehicle. And many governments, not only the state government or Indian government or foreign governments, many governments are made the policies for adoption of electric vehicle, for improving the electric vehicle, for improving the production of the electric vehicle, improving the consumption of the electric vehicle compared to the IC engine vehicles. So nowadays, the rate of using electric vehicle in the Norway is becoming very high compared to the US or England or India. But more research, if we consider the number of vehicles on the road, China stands first, where because of the pollution, because of the population also, number of vehicles on the road are in China is first, but the rate of adopting or rate of producing the electric vehicle, Norway stands the first. So in the global perspective also, the more number of vehicles or more number of research or more number of productions of electric vehicles are going to be happen nowadays. So and also when with respect to the sustainable transportation, so IC engine vehicles produces more greenhouse gas emissions, and it affects the AC engine vehicles affects the air quality, and it also increases the AC engine increases the noise pollution, so decreasing the energy efficiency. Supporting what IC engine vehicles so not support don't support for the renewable energy sources. So because they are running on the petrol and diesel products, but they are not renewable energy sources. So to overcome these issues, so we need to go for the electric vehicle that leads to the sustainable transportation where it reduces the greenhouse gas emissions, and also improves the urban air quality, lowering it lowers the noise pollution compared to the IC engine vehicles, it increases the energy efficiency, and supporting it supports the renewable energy integration, because for the charging in the electric vehicle we need to have the supply from the grid, or it may be renewable energy sources, so that in turn it supports the renewable energy sources. And finally, the main objective, it reduces the dependency of fossil fuels. So for these things we need to study the economic and environmental aspects of electric vehicle. Wait, somebody join.
Thank you, Sir John.
So to do the economical and environmental aspects, these are the very important, and it is a global perspective, and for the sustainable transportation we need to discuss on these things. So economics of, first we consider the economics of electric vehicle, later we consider the environmental aspects of electric vehicle. So the factors which affects the economics of EV adoption: vehicle price, battery cost, electricity tariff, charging infrastructure, maintenance, battery replacement, and government subsidy. So economic analysis evaluates the total cost and the financial benefits of owning and operating an electric vehicle. So can you tell uh, whether the cost of the price of the electric vehicle is more, or IC vehicle is more? If you consider the two wheeler, or if you consider the four wheeler also, which price is more, whether the electric vehicle or IC engine petrol vehicle?
Electric vehicles.
Obviously it is a cost of the electric vehicle is more, initial cost of the electric vehicle is more. So then why need to buy the electric vehicle? But initial cost, we are always think of initial cost. Anybody wants to buy the vehicle, how much is the cost, how much is the price? If the electric vehicle, a four-wheeler electric car, or it may be a Nexus, it of the same capacity, of the same specifications, electric vehicle cost of about 16 lakh to 17 lakh for on road price, where the same specification petrol car will cost of 13 to 14 lakh, almost 2 to 3 lakhs of hike from the petrol car to the electric vehicle car. So somebody without knowing anything about the electric vehicle, they what he prefer? He prefer the petrol vehicle because of lesser cost. Almost 2 to 3 lakhs going to be reduced when you buy, if you buy the IC engine vehicles. So uh, how can we motivate them to buy an electric vehicle rather than the IC engine vehicle? How the cost is going to be varied? We discuss the same factor. That factor affects the adoption of electric vehicle. That is the vehicle price. Then the battery cost. So as for your discussion in the battery technologies, uh, if you buy the IC engine vehicle for about the battery that we are going to use in the IC engine vehicle is about 20 for 120 or 100 cc or 120 cc bike. It is of about only 3 to 4 ampere hour. Yeah, with the capacity of 3 to 4 Ah. But what we need for the that is the very for the minor applications we are going to use in the IC engine vehicle. But when we use in the electric vehicle, that is the major. The battery is the major concern, major whole of the system, heart of the system is the, without the battery no electric vehicle. So that is a heart of the system. So the battery capacity is not with respect to 3 or 4 it is within the capacity of in terms of 70 or 80 or in terms of 100 so the capacity of the battery is higher in the case of electric vehicle. But on the same way, the cost of the battery is also more in the electric vehicle, where IC engine vehicles uses the less capacity electric battery, then the cost is obviously less in the IC engine vehicles. And also battery is going to be, as per our discussion, the for the level 1 or level 2 or level 3 anything, so almost it going to be a lifespan of about 8 to 10 or 8 to 11 or 12 years, almost in between 8 to 12 years. So once the battery is going to be died, then we need to purchase the another battery. So almost 40% of the total cost is from the battery itself. Remember, 35 to almost, I think, 30, we will discuss later, almost 35 to 40% of the cost of the electric vehicle is from the battery itself. So after 8 to 10 years, if the battery died, then we need to give, if our car is of about 10 lakh, then 30 to around, for example, 30%, then 3 lakh we need to spend for buying the battery. So for the 8 to 10 years, if we do the 30% of the total price, then what else? It is the price of the battery and the price of the vehicle is going to be increased. Now, if the battery price is, if we consider it is a 30%, if you consider for the 10 lakh, it is a 3 lakh. After the 10 years, what may be the battery cost? Battery cost will not be the constant. It may be increased. It will be increased in the linear fashion. So then at that time, it may cost about not the 3 lakh, it may be cost about 5 to 6 lakh. So who knows that one in the future, what happens. So, but compared to the IC engine vehicles, the vehicle is run for about to 15 to 20 years. We can easily run with the smooth driving. We can drive the IC engine vehicles about to 15 to 20 years without anything, without buying or without recycling. We can drive the vehicle with the 10 to 15, minimum of 15 years. So that is also the major thing we need to think of, because of the battery and electricity tariff. The petrol price will not be abruptly increasing. So electricity tariff also, previously to when about 2 to 3 years back, when these schemes are come, per unit is almost cost about 4 to 5 uh, rupees per unit. But now it is, after the scheming, it is of about 7 to 8, 7 to 8 rupees per kilowatt hour. So due to the scheme, we are getting the lesser amount. Once the scheme is closed, then we have to pay up for about double of the previously what we had. So that is, the tariff is going to be changed depending upon the government, and depending upon the how much revenue they want. Because only two major revenue they are getting from the societies. One is the, which are the major revenues they are getting, government may get the revenue. One is from the electricity, first one is from the abakari, that is drink, alcohol business, and this is the second one, electricity. So if what they want to keep on rising, the first one is that alcohol price, and second one is the electricity price. And also charging infrastructure. So we don't find everywhere, like petrol bunks or diesel bunks. We cannot find these charging stations everywhere. So we need to build that infrastructure. Charging infrastructure is one of the major concern, or one of the major factors, economic factor. Because we need to build there are different things we need to have, because what we have discussed in the last session, that is a design of the charging station, is the where we need to have the transformer, we need to have the control mechanism. If it is a my electric vehicle to grid technology, additional controller we need to have. And so separate units also we need to have, whether it is a level 1 or level 2 or DC power charging. Everything is the initially we need to build. But it is not in the case of IC engine vehicle, where IC engine, a lot of petrol bunks are available in the road or in the city. In the villages also we find. We see our village, in our village is Davangere, Elebetur. From the Elebetur to, if we travel for the 10 kilometers, almost 5 to 6 petrol bunks we find. For each 1.5 to 2 kilometer, we find the petrol bunk everywhere. Not in the city, in the villages also we find the petrol bunk. But it is not in the case of electrical charging station. They are only maybe 2 to 3 charging station are there in the district place itself. So building the infrastructure is also the one of the major factor which affects the economic consideration of EV adoption. And also maintenance, even though maintenance of the electric vehicle there are less moving parts, very less moving parts in the electric vehicle, the maintenance of battery system is a very important criteria in with respect to the maintenance. And also the friction produced from the road to the vehicle is more in the electric vehicle compared to the IC engine vehicle, because in the electric vehicle the sudden rise in the acceleration will be very high. Within the fraction of seconds the vehicle is going to be speed up from 0 to 60, 0 to 70. When the acceleration is very high initially, then there is a friction, there is a high moment of friction between the wheel and also tires and also the road. So that's why the maintenance of that wear of the tire is going to be happen frequently, but it is not in the case of IC engine vehicle. And battery replacement, so 8 to 10 years once we need to replace the battery. That is what we discussed. The cost of the battery is also matter, the main is the main factor for the adoption of electric vehicle. And also government subsidies, so government has to give the most subsidies on this buying the electric vehicle. Not only the for the buying the electric vehicle, they are give the more subsidies on the production. For the manufacturing the unit also they need to give the some subsidies like the tax or road for the users. It may be road tax they are going to yes, they need to minimize those things. We need to government has to think of. So these are the main economic factors that are considering for the EV adoption: vehicle price, battery cost, electricity tariff, charging infrastructure, maintenance, battery replacement, and government subsidy. So the cost of the components. What are the main cost of the equipment? What do you think the main cost of the equipments? Not only we all think of about only the price we are going to buy, that is the price we are going to purchase cost is the main thing we consider. That is also one of the major component of the economic. But in addition to that one, there are many costs that are going to be added to the purchase costs. Those costs are nothing but the cost components of the electric vehicle. So those are initially purchase cost. Once we purchase, we need to registration, then we need to go for the registration. If we purchase the car of 13 lakh, then the registration itself it takes about 1.5 to 2 lakh. So then insurance cost, additional insurance cost, every year we need to take the insurance. Then daily or how frequently the battery is going to be discharged, based upon that one we need to take the charging. Again charging is depend upon the electricity price, tariff price. Then maintenance of the battery and the maintenance of the whole motor and the whole electric vehicle is the one of the cost component. Then battery replacement, if you want to resell, then the resale value. So these are the cost components we need to consider. Only minus, these are all addition: purchase cost plus registration plus insurance plus charging plus maintenance plus battery replacement. These are all going to add for the cost component. Only minus thing we need to add, subtract the total cost, is the resale value. Resale, if you have the purchase of 10 lakh for a vehicle, if you resell the electric vehicle of about for 3 lakh, then the total cost will these all total cost will be minus by the 3 lakh. That will be cost as a total cost of the equipment. Then we need to compare the cost comparison between the electric vehicle and versus IC engine vehicle. So there are different parameters we consider. One is the fuel, running cost, maintenance cost, engine oil, transmission, and lifetime operating cost. So electric vehicle runs with the electricity, and IC engine vehicle runs with an petrol or diesel. The running cost of an electric vehicle is low, running cost of an IC engine vehicle is high. Why running cost is low in electric vehicle? Why running cost is high in IC engine vehicle? Can anybody tell? Why running cost? Initial
Electricity
cost is
is
more in
cheaper
India.
compared to diesel and petrol.
Tariff are cheaper.
Electricity,
Uh, electricity cost is price is cheaper compared to the petrol and diesel. So that's the one major thing we can say, that is the running cost is less. And also maintenance cost in the electric vehicle is less because there are less moving parts in the electric vehicle. But IC engine ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾವು ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಸೋದಾಗಿರ್ಲಿ, ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಆಯಿಲ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಿಸೋದಾಗಿರ್ಲಿ, ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಟೈರ್ ಡ್ಯಾಮ್, ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೇಬಲ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅದು ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆಂಟ್ಲಿ. So that's why high maintenance in the IC engine vehicles. Engine oil is not required in the electric vehicle, but it is for the IC engine vehicle. The engine oil is required. Transmission is very simple there because there is very less moving parts in the electric vehicle. But the IC engine vehicle is a complex transmission system. And lifetime operating cost is LOC, what we call, that is the lower in the electric vehicle, and for the IC engine vehicle is higher. We'll discuss one by one. Why electric vehicle lifetime operating cost of the electric vehicle is less compared to the IC engine vehicle. So compare the first we go with the initial purchase cost. As we said, initial purchase cost of the electric vehicle is higher compared to the IC engine vehicle. So only we think about IC engine and battery electric vehicle. So we need to compare this, comparing the IC engine and battery electric vehicle. Uh, so how the initial purchase cost is higher? In internal combustion engine vehicles has a lower purchase price. Why it is? Because there are plenty infinite number of IC engine vehicles on the road. The production of those things, if the production is in the large way, then the production cost will be minimum. If the production is less, then the cost will be the more. They are inversely proportional. Production of thousands of vehicle, thousand to lakhs together we are thousands together we are producing the vehicle means, then the cost of the price of cost of the vehicle will be reduced. So nowadays, as we seen, the presently IC engine vehicle contribution is more, about 85 to 90% of the contribution on the road vehicles is from the IC engine vehicles. So because of this technology is matured, or it is going to be uh, it reaches its maximum point, and the mass production, due to that one the initial cost of the electric vehicle is more, and its main cost is from the engine, gearbox and fuel injection system. So that require a very less amount of battery capacity for the IC engine vehicles. That's why overall the initial purchase cost of the IC engine vehicle is less. If you consider a petrol vehicle, as I said, it is of about 10 lakh, then for the petrol sedan car its cost of about only lesser 10 lakh, where electric vehicle is of about 13 to 14 lakh, or it may be somewhere, if it is a more specification, it is more than the 14 lakh also we have. And what it mean? So battery is the major thing. As I discussed, the battery is contributes about 30 to 40% of the here we say the battery contributes 30 to 40% of the initial cost. That means if the car is of about, as I said, 10 lakh, then the 33 to 4 lakh is for the battery only. Then also motor also costs for very major role in the buying the electric vehicle. So it is about 10 to 15 of the total cost is from the electric vehicle only. So let's 40% is 40%, then 15%. Overall 55% is for only the motor and the battery. If you have the electric vehicle, if you buy the electric vehicle for the 10 lakh, then about to 5 lakh is only for these two components, motor and then uh, battery. So remaining 5 lakhs is for the body and control mechanism, what we have, wheel, tire and mechanism, different driving mechanism what it has. So only 50%, 50 to 55% from the battery and the motor, and then the major part is the controller. The controller what we have, it may be inverter, it may be DC to DC converter or onboard charger or battery management system. It also cost more because this cost, battery cost of 40%, motor cost of 50%, and power electronics cost of 10, maybe this contribution is not there in the IC engine vehicle. In the IC engine vehicle, a battery of lower capacity is more than enough. There is no motor and there is no electrons, very less electronics in the AC engine vehicles. That's why the cost of the initial cost of the electric vehicle is more than the IC engine vehicle. This is a comparison for the initial purchase cost comparison of three different vehicles: ICE vehicle, hybrid vehicle, and battery vehicle. Look into the table. So for the IC engine vehicle, IC vehicle engine required is a that is the major component. How batteries plays a major role in the electric vehicle. In the IC vehicle, engine plays a very major role. Where in the hybrid electrical, it runs for both from the both battery and engine. So smaller engine is more than sufficient. In the electric vehicle, battery electric vehicle, we don't find any engines. So fuel tanks are not required for the IC vehicle and hybrid vehicle. It is not required for the battery vehicle. Motors are not required in the IC vehicle where it is required for hybrid and battery electric vehicle. Battery pack is very small as I said in the electric vehicle. It is mid on the IC vehicle. It is medium for the hybrid electric vehicle and it is large for the battery electric vehicle. It is about capacity 30 to 100 kilowatt hour. Power electronics required in the IC vehicle is very minimal and for the hybrid electric it is a moderate. It is in the extensive for the battery electric vehicle. Transmission is a multi-speed in the IC and hybrid also it is a multi-speed in the where in the battery electrical it is very simple, it is a single speed. Initial purchase price in the IC vehicle is lowest. Hybrid vehicle is compared to the IC and battery electrical is a moderate one and battery electrical is the highest cost, initial cost. As per we made the discussion in the last slides. So now we come to know that is initial cost of the electric vehicle is more compared to the IC engine vehicles. Then what about operating cost or running cost? For example, IC engine vehicle requires a fuel of 8 rupees per kilometer. EV requires 1.2 rupees per kilometer. Remember, in an average, statistics says IC engine vehicles requires 8 rupees per kilometer where electric vehicle which runs with the electricity require only 1.2 rupees per kilometer. So annual savings, there will be the annual savings if you buy the electric vehicle. That means operating cost of the running cost or operating cost of the electric vehicle is much cheaper compared to the IC engine vehicle, even though initial cost of the electric vehicle is more. So this is the maintenance cost comparison. In the IC engine vehicle, we need to replace the engine oil frequently, oil filter replacement, air and fuel filters, spark plug replacement, clutch maintenance, exhaust system repair. There are the common things. once, twice, or 3 months, once in a 3 months or once in a 4 months, we need to do all these things. ಇಂಜಿನ್ ಆಯಿಲ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಆಯಿಲ್ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಏರ್ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಸ್ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ಪ್ಲಗ್ ಹಾಳಾಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೊಂದ್ಸಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಅಂಡ್ ಕ್ಲಚ್, ಬ್ರೇಕ್, ಗೇರ್, those cables we need to replace our maintenance, and exhaust system repair is also frequently. But what happens in the electric vehicle? Tire rotation and replacement is there, fluid brake fluid replacement is there, battery coolant inspection if liquid is cooled, or if it is air cooled not required, and battery health condition, that is SOH, state of health, is also required, cabin air filter replacement, suspension and steering inspection. These maintenance cost will be there for the electric vehicle and for the IC engine vehicle. So typical annual maintenance cost for the petrol car is of about 20 to 30,000. For the diesel car, it is about 25 to 35,000. Where for the electric vehicle is only of 8 to 12,000. That's why the maintenance or running cost or operating cost of an electric vehicle is much lesser than the petrol and diesel car. See the comparison. 20 to, if you consider the maximum only, 30,000 for the petrol, 35,000 for the diesel, and 12,000 for the electric vehicle. It is almost off, less than half percent for the electric vehicle. Then what is the total cost of the ownership? Andre, what is meant by total cost of the ownership? ನಾವು ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಕಾರ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ತಗೊಂತೀವಿ, ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ರನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್, ಮೇಂಟೆನೆನ್ಸ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್, ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಆದ್ರೆ then it is called as total cost of ownership. T stands for the total, C stands for the cost, and O stands for the ownership. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಓನರ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡಿಂಗ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್, ಏನೇನ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತೋ ಒಂದು ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ದ TCO. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಟು first cost is the purchase cost, plus if it is a IC engine vehicle, fuel cost, if it is a electric vehicle, energy cost. That's why fuel bar energy cost, then maintenance cost, plus insurance cost, then taxes, minus resale ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕೂ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, resale ಇದ್ರೆ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಮೈನಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಬ್ಸಿಡಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಂದ ನಮಗೆ ಯೂಶಲಿ IC engine vehicle ಸಬ್ಸಿಡಿ ಸಿಗಲ್ಲ. Somewhere some governments have some schemes for the subsidy for the electric vehicle, then ಆ ಸಬ್ಸಿಡಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು ಕೂಡ ಅದನ್ನ ಮೈನಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ಟೋಟಲಿ total cost of ownership ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು purchase cost plus fuel cost or energy cost plus maintenance cost plus insurance plus taxes minus resale value and subsidy given by the government. So take the problem, note down the problem. Note down the problem.
ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅಮ್ಮ, ನನ್ನ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ GM ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ.
Over. An electric vehicle has the following specifications. Vehicle price is equal to 15 lakh. Annual distance traveled is 15,000 kilometer. Electricity tariff is rupees 8 rupees per kilowatt. Vehicle efficiency is 6 kilometer per kilowatt hour. Calculate the annual charging cost of the electric vehicle. Vehicle price is 15 lakh. Annual distance traveled, usually all the car usually travel for the 10 to 20,000 kilometer per year. On average, we consider 15,000 kilometer. Tariff becomes an 8 rupees per kilowatt hour. Vehicle efficiency is 1 kilowatt hour. 6 kilometer is going to be run. Calculate the annual charging cost of the electric vehicle. So first, to calculate the annual charge consumption, we need to calculate the annual charge consumption. The energy required by the vehicle is calculated as energy consumption is equal to annual distance divided by the efficiency. How much distance is going to be covered or traveled divided by the efficiency of the vehicle. So distance traveled is 15,000, efficiency is 6 kilometer per kilowatt hour, then annual energy consumption is 2500 kilowatt hour. 1 year ಇಷ್ಟು ಎನರ್ಜಿನ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ 2500 kilowatt hour. So to calculate the annual charge cost, then we need to multiply it by the electricity tariff. Electricity ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ 8 rupees ಇದೆ per kilowatt. Then if you multiply 8 rupees with the total energy consumption, that is 2500, then it becomes 20,000 only. So this is the amount that is required for the annual charging cost. So what we can conclude, the electric vehicle consumes 2500 kilowatt of electricity annually to travel 15,000 kilometer at an electricity tariff of 8 rupees per kilowatt hour. The owner spends only 20,000 per year on charging. So 20,000 per year on charging. So look into this one, 20,000 per year for charging. If you buy the IC engine vehicles, almost it gives the 15 kilometer per liter. Usually if you can compare those things, so if you calculate according to this one, so what we have, fuel required is 8 rupees per kilometer, electricity is only 1.2 per kilometer. It is of about almost about 5 times I think, almost about 6 times. If you consider it is about 6 times, then how much amount for the AC engine vehicle to travel for the 15,000? 20,000 into 6 times means almost 1,20,000. If we consider neglect the 20,000, it almost cost for the 1 lakh for the petrol. 1 lakh for we spend almost 1 lakh for the petrol to travel for the 15,000 kilometer, where in the case of electric vehicle it's about only 20,000. Then there will be a cost benefit, as we said, even though the initial price is high, our cost is more in the electric vehicle, running cost are less in the electric vehicle. That's why we say here. So il 20,000 one day almost we can save about 80,000. 1 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ 80,000 ಆದ್ರೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ 3 years ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್. ಸೊ 1 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ 1 lakh ಅಂದ್ರೆ 1,20,000 ಅಂದ್ರೆ -20 ಅಂದ್ರೆ 1 lakh. ಸೊ 3 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ 3 ಲಕ್ಷ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ದೆನ್ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, 3 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಪೇ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ 10 ಲಕ್ಷ ಇರೋ ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಕಾರು ನಮಗೆ 13-14 ಲಕ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕರೆ 3-4 ಲಕ್ಷ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 3-4 ಲಕ್ಷ ಓಡಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ನಾಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ವಿತ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ದ ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್, we need to consider about the environment also. Not only we need to consider our economic, we need to consider the societal economy in terms of environmental benefits also we need to consider. There are more, as we discussed in the earlier classes, there are more benefit of electric vehicle compared to the IC engine vehicles, and also the running cost or maintenance cost is very much less compared to the IC engine vehicles. So that's why there are benefits for buying the electric vehicle. Fuel savings, we can save the fuel. In turn we can have the less dependence in the fossil fuels, and maintenance savings, subsidy, lower emissions, cost, higher purchase price, battery replacement, charging stations. So these are the cost benefit analysis different with respect to different parameters what we did. And if you consider the sensitive analysis, we do the sensitive analysis on effect of electricity price, battery price, fuel price, annual travel, and government efficiency. So we need to consider these things. As we said, electricity price is comparable of about 8 rupees. If we consider here, we consider the petrol price of 1 or 2 or 1 or 3 rupees. Then for the future overall, if you consider for 1 year, the maintenance cost is less compared to the IC engine vehicles. Even though battery price or battery replacement requires a much amount of time, it is only happen within the period of 10 to 15 years only, not yearly. We don't get that one. So there is a case study that is electric car versus petrol car for 10-year economic comparison. If you run the electric car for the 10-year, what is the cost required, total cost required? If you run the petrol car for the 10 years, what is the cost required? That is nothing but the 10-year economic comparison. Just spend a 5 to 10 minutes on this one, how we can calculate these things. We have the comparison between these two in the next slides, but I will give some room for you to think of these things. What is the cost required, including the purchase and everything, whatever the cost we have said. What is the cost for the 10 years if you use the electric car? What is the cost with the purchase price if you use the petrol car? I'll give 10 to 5 to 10 minutes only. You can note down anything, some points we can discuss. You should be active. Not only I have to speak in the class, you should be active because this is an online class. We cannot see your faces, what you are doing. We cannot do. We cannot judge that one. So only thing, hoping you are listening to my words or listening to my lecturing. I am going good. So to maintain that repo, you need to work on these things. When I give the some little activity or tasks to you and online, you need to work on these things. Just will give only 5 to 10 minutes. Compare electric car versus petrol car for 10-year economic comparison. I will ask everyone. Audible? ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿದೆನಾ?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. In discussion.
Sir, one question, sir.
Ah,
If EVs are superior in every aspect, then why do petrol, diesel, and CNG vehicles still account for the majority of the new car sales worldwide? The percentage was 75 and 25. So like 75 are petrol, diesel, and CNG cars, and the rest of the 25 are EVs.
not only 75, almost 80 to 85 to 90 we can say. The main reason is so the people do not have an awareness of buying the electric vehicle. So what comes to your mind as per the discussion in the previous sessions? So in the before 2 years, now we are okay with the charger and everything with respect to the electric vehicle. Before 2 years back, 2 years ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಏನಿತ್ತು ಅದ್ರ ಯೋಚನೆ, ಈ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಬಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಂತೆ, ಅದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಂತೆ, ಇದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಓಲಾ ಬಂದಾಗೆ ಬೈಕಲ್ಲಿ, ಕಾರ್ ಬಿಡಿ, ಬೈಕಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಚಾರ್ಜಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಬರ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತಂತೆ, ಆ ರೋಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಟೋಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತಂತೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ 3 years ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ there are very less number of electric vehicles on the road in India due to the lack of awareness in the about the electric vehicle. That is the major concern. They are not coming forward to buy the electric vehicle due to these reasons. And the second one is when we have there are very less number of charging station. If you buy the two-wheeler, there is sufficient, we can that is the level 1 charger that will be done in the home only. But when we go with the level 2 and level 3 charger, then there are very less amount of chargers in the available in the even in the urban cities also. That is the second major concern. And the third one is the amount. So there lack of mass production with respect to AC engine vehicle, the cost will be less. We think of the initial cost, not about the running cost. ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ನಾವು ಕೂಡ, ನೀವು ಕೂಡ, before the session we think whether we thought of the running cost or maintenance cost of the electric vehicle very much drastically less than the IC engine vehicles. ಗೊತ್ತಿತ್ತ ನಮಗೆ? ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ರನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಥವಾ ಮೇಂಟೆನೆನ್ಸ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಬಹಳ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಓನ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಆದ್ರೆ 15-16 ಲಕ್ಷ ಅಂತೆ, IC ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಕಾರ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 10-11 ಲಕ್ಷ. 4 ಲಕ್ಷ ಸೇವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ನಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 10 ವರ್ಷ ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಅದೇ ಗಾಡಿಗೆ ಓಡಿಸಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ನೋ ವೇರ್ ವಿ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ರನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್. ಈಗ 100 ಜನ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ತಗೊಂತಾರೆ, ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಕಾರ್ ತಗೊಂತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ಫ್ಯಾಷನ್ ಆಗಿ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕಲ್ ಓಡಿಸ್ತಾರೆ ಹೊರತು ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಯಾರು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ತಗೊಳೋದು ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಲ್ಲ. 100 ಜನದಲ್ಲಿ 90-95 ಜನನು ಕೂಡ ಯಾರು ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಫ್ಯಾಷನ್ ಆಗಿ ತಗೊಂತಾರೆ ಹೊರತು ನಾನು ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಕೊಡುಗೆ ಇರ್ಲಿ, ನಂದೊಂದು ಇದು ಇರ್ಲಿ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಉದ್ದೇಶದಿಂದ ಯಾರು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ತಗೊಳಲ್ಲ. When we think of most of the countries, US agli, Norway agli, England agli, they have more concern about their society and their environment. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನಾವು ಏನಾದ್ರು ಕೊಡಬೇಕು, ಆ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ ನಮ್ದು ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಒಂದು ಕಾರಣದಿಂದ ನಾವು ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ವಿ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರ್ ಬೈಯಿಂಗ್ ದ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್. ನೀವು ಫಾರಿನ್ ಸಿಟೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಕಡೆನು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಕೇಸಸ್ ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ IIT ISC ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಇದೆನೋ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ನ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಬಿಡೋದಿಲ್ವೋ, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಕಡೆನು ಸೈಕಲ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಥವಾ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಅಥವಾ ಬೈ ವಾಕ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಸಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಆ ರೀತಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದ್ರೆ then there will be more chance of buying the electric vehicle, reducing the environmental pollution.
And coming to the next question, considering battery manufacturing and electricity generation, sir, at what point in an EV's lifetime does it become environmentally better than a petrol car?
With respect to what?
ಸರ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಇವಾಗ ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿ ಮ್ಯಾನುಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದು ಯಾವ ತರ ನಮಗೆ ಬೆನಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಐತೆ ಸರ್, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಪರ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಫ್ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್?
That I will tell in the next slide. It is going to be discussed. We thought of till now, we thought of electrical is the free greenhouse emissions. ನಮಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ನಮ್ಮ ತಲೆಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಬಂದಿರೋದು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಎಮಿಟ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್, ಏನೇ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಇರಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದು. ಸೊ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ. ನಾಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ವೈಲ್ ಡ್ರೈವಿಂಗ್, ಫಾರ್ ದ ಮ್ಯಾನುಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರಿಂಗ್. ಈ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಮ್ಯಾನುಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿ ಬೇಕಾ? ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿ ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಲಿಥಿಯಂ ಮ್ಯಾನುಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರಿಂಗ್ ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿ ಬೇಕು, ಮೋಟರ್ ಬೇಕು. ಆ ಮೋಟರ್ಗೆ ವೈಂಡಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದೆಲ್ಲದು ಕೂಡ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಡಿಸ್ಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅದು ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಏನ. ಏನೇ ಒಂದು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ನ ಡಿಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು after burning only those comes into the picture. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಫುಟ್ ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಕಮ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ದ ಪಿಕ್ಚರ್, ನಾಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ವಿತ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ದ ಡ್ರೈವಿಂಗ್. ನಾವು ಬರೀ ಡ್ರೈವಿಂಗ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಅದನ್ನ ಡಿಸೈನ್
ಹ್ಮ್.
ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು
ಹಾ
ಕಾರ್ಬನ್
ಹಾ ಹಾ
ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ
ಹೌದೌದು.
ಯಾರು ಯೋಚನೆ
ಹಾ
ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಎದರ್ ವಿತ್
ಹೌದು.
ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ದ ಮೋಟರ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ವಿತ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ದ ಬ್ಯಾಟರಿ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಸ್ಟಿಲ್
ಹಾ ಹಾ
we can say running the electric vehicle is, even though it is running the electric vehicle is the free of these greenhouse gases, but designing the electric vehicle is not free of greenhouse
ಹಾ ಹಾ
emissions.
ಹಾ.
So that we can
ಹ್ಮ್.
conclude here.
Okay. And if everyone switches to EVs, then can our current electricity grid, support the additional demand?
That's also main thing. See, if we shift to the electricity, so
ಹಾ
ಈ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಸಿಟಿ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ ನಾವು, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಮೇಜರ್ ಥಿಂಗ್.
ಹಾ ಸರ್.
ಯಾವ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಇಸ್ ಫ್ರೀ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಅಂತಂದು, ಫ್ರೀ ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಅಂತ, ಬಟ್ ಅದನ್ನ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ?
ಹಾ ಸರ್ ಅದೇ.
ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇಜರ್ ಆಗಿ 55 to 60% ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಸಿಟಿ ಜನರೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಿರೋದು ಫಾಸಿಲ್ ಫ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ, ಕೋಲ್ ಇಂದಾನೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು. ಹೌದಾ?
ಹಾ
55 to 60%
ಹೌದು.
ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಸಿಟಿ ಜನರೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಿರೋದು ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೋಲಿಂದಾನೆ ಆಗ್ತಿರೋದು. ಆ ಕೋಲ್
ಹಾ
ಇಸ್
ಸರ್.
ಹಾರ್ಮ್ಫುಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್.
ಹೌದು
ಕೋಲ್
ಸರ್
ಬರ್ನ್
ಹೌದು.
ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸಸ್ ದ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್, ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಮಾನಾಕ್ಸೈಡ್. So then
ಹ್ಮ್
how do
ಹ್ಮ್.
you say electric vehicle is the one
Yes
which is
yes. ಹಾ.
free of pollution? We cannot say.
ಹ್ಮ್
When
ಹ್ಮ್.
the source that is given for the charging the electric vehicle is from the renewable energy sources, then only we can say electric vehicle is the green vehicle.
ಹಾ
Then
ಹಾ
only we
ಹಾ.
can say it is a free of greenhouse emissions. ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ
ಹ್ಮ್ ಹ್ಮ್.
ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಕಾಣಂಗೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ನ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಚಾರ್ಜ್
ಹ್ಮ್.
ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕೋಲ್ ಪವರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಇಂದ ಪವರ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನ್
ಹಾ
ಬಂತು?
ಸರ್.
ಈಗ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್
ಹೌದು.
ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ರೋಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೋದ್ರೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾವು ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೋಲೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, then there is no use of promoting the electric vehicle. We need to
ಹ್ಮ್ ಹ್ಮ್
promote
ಹ್ಮ್.
in the such a way that to charge the electric vehicle battery we need to use the renewable energy sources, more
ಹ್ಮ್
renewable
ಹ್ಮ್
energy
ಹ್ಮ್.
sources rather than the coal and nuclear or any other conventional sources of energy. ಆ ರೀತಿ
ಹ್ಮ್ ಹ್ಮ್
ಇಂಟಿಗ್ರೇಷನ್
ಹ್ಮ್.
ರಿನ್ಯೂವಬಲ್ ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಇಂಟಿಗ್ರೇಷನ್ ಆದ್ರೂ ಮಾತ್ರ then we can say electric vehicle is better for the environmental concern. Otherwise
Okay.
again ಮೇಲೆ ನೋಡಕ್ ಚಂದ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ, ಒಳಗಡೆ ಉಳುಕ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಆ ರೀತಿ
ಹಾ
ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ.
ಹಾ ಹಾ ಆ ತರ ಆಗೋದು.
So we have
ಅದೇ.
now come to this case study. Yeah,
ಹ್ಮ್
anybody
ಹ್ಮ್.
have done these things? Which is the more cost compared, as per the discussion previously? Obviously electric car consumption is more less, or petrol car is less. I think some of you have done something with respect to your uh, with respect to, maybe it may be from the Google or it may be any AI assistant. So we'll
ಹ್ಮ್
discuss further.
ಹ್ಮ್ ಹ್ಮ್.
See the table. Customer is planning to purchase either an electric vehicle or petrol electric vehicle. The following data are available. This is the problem statement. The parameters are purchase price, annual distance, vehicle efficiency, electricity tariff, petrol price, annual maintenance, insurance annually, battery replacement, resale value after 10 years. Because we have considered for the 10 years, which is the most economical, whether it is a AC vehicle or a electric vehicle. So purchase price of the electric vehicle is 15,000 and that of the petrol car is 10,000. Annual distance traveled is 15,000 kilometer. The same thing we need to, for the comparison we need to take the same data. Vehicle efficiency for the electrical vehicle efficiency is 6 kilometer per kilowatt hour, where petrol car, as I said, 15 on an average 15 kilometer per liter. For the electrical car we need to have the electrical tariff. It is not required for the petrol price is not required for the electric car. It's required for the petrol car. It is of about 105 rupees per liter as of now. Annual maintenance required 8,000 as we discussed, and petrol car as 20,000. Insurance is 25,000 and 20,000 for the petrol car. Battery replacement uh, after 8 years, as I said, 30 to 40% of the total cost is this battery only, of about 3 lakh. And battery replacement, that much of battery replacement is not required because it run for only 3 to 5 years of battery. Resale value is for the electric vehicle is more after 10 years. Why? Because only battery is going to be changed, nothing else. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪರ್ಮನೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಆರ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿ 10 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ 3 lakh. ಸೊ ಬ್ಯಾಟರಿ ಸೇಲ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇಸ್ ಮಚ್ ಮೋರ್ compared to the petrol car. Now compare the total cost of ownership, that is ಓನರ್ ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ 10 years ಗೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ we need to calculate over a period of 10 years with respect to electric car and with respect to petrol car. See, first step is annual energy cost. Vehicle efficiency 6 kilometer per kilowatt hour. With the statistics we are calculating, but what we did is maybe is in general. So annual distance is 15,000 kilometer, 1500 kilometer, sorry 15,000 kilometer. Energy required now 15,000 kilometer divided by vehicle efficiency is 6. What we did in the earlier, it is about 2,500 kilowatt hour. For annual charging cost is 2,500 into 8 rupees for the 1 kilowatt hour. Now it is 20,000. Annual now that is the annual charging cost for the electric vehicle is of about 20,000. What we already did that one. So the same thing we have explained in the previous slides. In the steps 2, the same thing we need to calculate for the fuel or petrol car. So mileage 15 kilometer, fuel required is 1000 liters. Fuel cost is 1 liter ಗೆ 1 lakh 5 rupees ಇದ್ರೆ then fuel cost becomes 1 lakh 5,000. See, if your annual charging cost for the electric vehicle is 20,000, but for the IC vehicle it's about 1 lakh 5,000. It is merely 85,000 more than the electric vehicle cost. Then that is the energy. With respect to the energy, what I said is with respect to only energy, that is with respect to energy for the electric vehicle and with respect to fuel for the petrol vehicle. Now step 3 is the operating cost of for 10 years. 10 years ಗೆ operating cost electric vehicle ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗುತ್ತೆ and petrol vehicle ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗುತ್ತೆ we need to calculate. So charging cost is 20,000 multiplied by 10 years, because 20,000 is for 1 year. Annual charging cost for the electric vehicle is 20,000. 10 years in the consider ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ it is 20,000 into 10 is 2 lakh. Maintenance cost is 8,000. 8 given in the table. Maintenance cost, see, annual maintenance is 8,000 for the electric vehicle. So maintenance cost is 8,000 multiplied by 10 years, it is about 80,000. And insurance 25,000 into 10, it is about 2 lakh 50,000. And battery replacement for the 10 years, once we do in the once in a 10 years we are going to replace the electric battery, so 3 lakh. So total operating cost for the owner, it will be adding all the cost, it was about 8 lakh 30,000. In addition to purchase cost, there is a cost, total operating cost is 8 lakh 30,000 for 10 years when we use the electric vehicle. Then coming to the petrol vehicle, fuel cost per year what we calculated is 1 lakh 5,000. Then it should be multiplied by 10 for the 10 years. Then it is 10 lakh 50,000. Maintenance cost is 20,000. If you want for the 10 years, then multiplied by 10, it is 2 lakh. Then for the insurance, 20,000 into 10 years, 2 lakh. Total operating cost is 14 lakh 50,000. See the difference, almost 6 lakhs difference for the 10 years. Then for the step 4, total operating cost for the electric car is about 19 lakh 30,000, and for the petrol car it is about 22 lakh 50,000. See, summing all the things, purchase price, operating cost, and lesser resale value, let's say resale value, whatever we do by all these things, we have the electrical cost for the 10 years is 19 lakh 30,000, and petrol cost about 22 lakh 50,000. So what is the major difference? So both the car cost are almost near, almost to 3 to 3.5 lakhs are different. So ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಕಾರ್ ರನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೂ ಕೂಡ ಅಥವಾ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಕಾರ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಪವರ್ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಬೇಕು. ಆ ಪವರ್ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಮತ್ತು ಅಗೇನ್ ನಮಗೆ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮಮ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೋಲಿಂದನೇ ಬರೋದು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಕೋಲ್ ಬರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಬರೋದು ಇದರಿಂದ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಗೇನ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಫಾಸಿಲ್ ಫ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್, ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ದೇರ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ದೆನ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಮೇಜರ್ ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್? ಆ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇಜರ್ ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ನೋಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರೀ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡದ್ದು ಸೇಮ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಇದೆ. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಬೈ ದ IC also the same issue, if you buy the electric vehicle also same issue if it is a pre production. But if the in the pre production electric charge ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು renewables energy source ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ then we can say that is a zero emission. Other but petrol ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು cannot, there is a possibility of using renewable energy source because we don't have any battery for running in the IC engine vehicle. It's mainly run for the petrol or diesel. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಯಾವುದೇ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ IC engine ಅಲ್ಲಿ. Electric vehicle there is a chance of avoiding if you use the renewable energy sources in the pre-production. After production of IC engine vehicles or electric vehicle, the amount of carbon dioxide or amount of carbon footprint released after the running electric vehicle is very less, or you can say it is a zero. But once we drive the IC engine vehicle, that releases the smoke that is affects the environment. After production, you can say electric vehicle is the free of greenhouse emissions. But after production of post production also, IC engine vehicles are not releases, they will release the greenhouse emissions. So comparably, for the environment, electric vehicle releases very less amount, contributes very less amount of carbon footprint compared to the IC engine vehicles. This is a comparison table. There is a savings of 3,20,000 if you buy the electric vehicle and run for the 10 years. Now we go with the what we discussed is to this slide we discussed about the cost. Cost ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು electric vehicle is cheaper and compared to IC engine vehicles for the 10 years, not for the purchasing cost. I am not talking about the purchasing cost, I am talking about the total cost for the 10 years. ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಅದೇ 5 ಲಕ್ಷ ಬಡ್ಡಿ ಕೊಟ್ಕೊಂತ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ದುಡ್ಡು ಉಳಿತದ ಬಿಡ್ರಿ ಸರ್ ಅಂತಂದು. ಹೌದಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಸೇವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ ಅದೇ 3-4 ಲಕ್ಷನ ಬಡ್ಡಿ ಕೊಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ₹1 ಬಡ್ಡಿ ಕೊಟ್ಕೊಂತ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ 40,000 ಇಂಟು 10 ವರ್ಷ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 4 ಲಕ್ಷ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಉಳಿತಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆಲ್ಲಿ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಆತಲ್ ಬಿಡ್ರಿ ಸರ್ ಅನ್ಬೋದು. ಹಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಡ್ರಿ ಮತ್ತೆ. Then we go with the environmental aspects. Environmental aspects are with respect to the air pollution. The challenges are air pollution, climate change, global warming, and greenhouse gases. So what we discussed, the same thing we discussed in the previous classes and in the first and second sessions. So we know IC engine vehicles are more prone to the air pollution, and if there are more number of large amount of carbon emissions are happened in the environment, that leads to the climate change, that again the leads to the global warming also. Global warming is increasing the temperature globally year by year. So more smoke is from the transportation and the industry. ನಮಗೆ ಈಗಿನ ಗ್ಲೋಬಲ್ ವಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ಲೈಮೇಟ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲಕ್ಕೂ ಕಾರಣ ಇವೆರಡನೇ ಮೇನು. ಒಂದು ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಾಡರ್ನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ರೂರಲ್ ಏರಿಯಾನ ಅರ್ಬನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ. ಈಗ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಬಿಡದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಕೂಡ ಅದೇನೆ. ಅಲ್ಲೇನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ರೂರಲ್ ಏರಿಯಾನ ಕಲ್ಟಿವೇಟೆಡ್ ಏರಿಯಾನ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ನ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ದ ಕಮರ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಏರಿಯಾ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ದ with the township, which is a small scale industry ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ reducing the crop production ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲದೂ ಕೂಡ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ವಾಟ್ we give the some name like a modernization ಅಂತ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಮುಚ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತಂದು. So that may lead to this climate change and global warming and release of greenhouse gases. So these are the environmental changes or environmental aspects we need to consider with respect to these things. So sources of transport emission, ಒಂದು ರೋಡ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ರೈಲ್ವೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್, ಥರ್ಡ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಏವಿಯೇಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಫೋರ್ತ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಶಿಪ್ಪಿಂಗ್. ರೋಡ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್, ರೋಡ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ದ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್. Through the through the train we can have the transportation. Through the air we can have the transportation. Through the water also we have the transportation. These are the 4 different types of sources of transportation. And once we have the transportation, once the road vehicle release on the road, they have the release the greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, N2O, NOx, and PM2. These are the greenhouse gases produced when we run the IC engine vehicle. So now coming to the carbon footprint. Did you heard the word carbon footprint earlier? Sneha? Sneha?
Yes, sir.
ಏನು ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಫುಟ್ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ?
ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಆಗೋದು ಸರ್.
ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್. ಮತ್ತೆ ಎನಿ ಅದರ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್? Carbon emission is the is nothing but what do we say? It's nothing but greenhouse emission. Footprint. Why the word footprint? So what we discussed earlier in previously in 5 to 10 minutes back, the same thing we can say. This is the carbon footprint. Carbon footprint is nothing but the total amount of greenhouse gas emissions that are produced through the life of the vehicle. Throughout the life of the vehicle, from the point of manufacturing to the end of the vehicle. So, how much of carbon dioxide is going to be emit? Not only carbon dioxide, it may be sulfur dioxide, it may be what we say, there are different emission pollutants, carbon monoxide. So from the point of production, from the initial step of the minute step of the production to the end of the vehicle, whatever the amount of carbon emissions that are going to be released to the environment, that is nothing but the carbon footprint. Foot ಅಂದ್ರೆ ತಳದಿಂದ, ಏನ್ ಪಾದದಿಂದ ಅಡಿಯಿಂದ ಮುಡಿವರೆಗೂ ಅಂತಂದು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಅಡಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ ತೆಳಗಿಂದ ಪಾದದಿಂದ ತೆಳಗ, ಮುಡಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ತಲೆ ನೆತ್ತಿ. ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ನಮ್ ಪಾದ, ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ನಮ್ ನೆತ್ತಿ. ಸೊ ಹಂಗೆ ಅಡಿಯಿಂದ ಮುಡಿಯಿಂದ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಅದೇ ರೀತಿನೇ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಡಿಯಿಂದ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾನುಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರ್ ಇಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಲೈಫ್ ಎಂಡ್ ಆಗೋವರೆಗೂ ಏನ್ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ನ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೋ ಅಥವಾ ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸಸ್ ನ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೋ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ದ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಫುಟ್ ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್. Once again, we can say it is the amount of carbon dioxide, total amount of carbon greenhouse emissions that are released throughout the lifespan of the any electric vehicle. That is nothing but the carbon footprint. There may be a direct emissions or there may be indirect emissions. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಐಸಿ ಇಂಜಿನ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ we think we have both the direct emission and indirect emissions throughout the life cycle of the vehicle. But in the case of electric vehicle, we don't have any direct emissions, we have the indirect emissions. So what is meant by direct emissions and indirect emissions with respect to the carbon footprint? What is the difference? Direct emissions and indirect emissions with respect to the vehicle. It may be a IC vehicle or it may be an electric vehicle. Mamta?
ಎಸ್ ಸರ್.
ಹೇಳಮ್ಮ, ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಇಂಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು?
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಇಂದ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಸರ್.
ಇಂಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್
ಇಂಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್
ಎಮಿಷನ್.
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಸಿಟಿ ಜನರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ
ಹ್ಮ್.
ಅಥವಾ ಫ್ಯೂಯಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅವಾಗ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಇಂಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ.
Very good. So direct emissions are nothing but when we drive the vehicle, from the vehicle if it releases any greenhouse emissions, then that is called as direct emissions. The IC engine, if you use the IC engine vehicles, while riding the IC engine vehicle, it releases a smoke. That smoke contains the greenhouse emissions. So that is directly affect the environment. So direct ನಮಗೆ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ IC ಇಂಜಿನ್ ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಕಾರ್ ರನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದರಿಂದ ಸ್ಮೋಕ್ ಬರೋದು ನಮಗೆ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಅಫೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ದ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್. So direct affection to the effect to the environment, those are called as direct emissions. But in the indirect emissions, when we drive the vehicle, we don't find any emissions, greenhouse emissions released from the vehicle. So those are not directly harmful for the environment. Directly, they are not directly harmful for the environment, but when designing the electric vehicle, either with respect to the vehicle manufacturing or battery manufacturing, or with respect to the raw materials that are going to design for the battery, lithium ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, nickel cadmium ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ for the motor ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು. So whatever the materials that we are going to use for the designing the electric vehicle, those are nothing but the indirect emissions. ಅಂದ್ರೆ back stage ಅಲ್ಲಿ to design the vehicles, ಏನೇನು ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಆ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಇಂದ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಆದರೆ that affects the environment ಆದರೆ that is nothing but the indirect emissions. So the overall, the life cycle, in the life cycle of any electric vehicle, carbon emissions plus indirect emissions is equal to the life cycle emissions. Not only the direct emissions, plus indirect emissions also it is included. We need to add both the emissions, direct and indirect emissions, for the life cycle emissions of any electric vehicle. So carbon footprint of an electric vehicle: fuel extraction, transportation, combustion and release of carbon dioxide. ಸೊ ಫ್ಯೂಯಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್, ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಫ್ಯೂಯಲ್ ನಮಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಲೋಕಲ್ ಸಿಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ ಟೇಕ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಗಲ್ಫ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಲೀಡ್ಸ್ ಟು ದ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್. ದೆನ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಬಷನ್ ರನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನು ಕಂಬಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ದ ಇಂಜಿನ್, that also leads to the carbon dioxide. This is the carbon footprint of an IC engine. And the carbon footprint ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಶುರು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬಂತು, ಫ್ಯೂಯಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಂದ ಬಂತು. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂತು, ನಾವು ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ರನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ IC engine vehicles. That's why the carbon footprint from the foot, ಬುಡದಿಂದ ಮೇಲೆ ತಲೆವರೆಗೂ. Carbon footprint in the electric vehicle, it is from the electricity generation, then charging, then battery manufacturing and vehicle operation. If the electricity generation is from the renewable energy sources, then the carbon footprint of electric vehicle is lesser, very lesser compared to the IC engine vehicle. If the electricity generation is from the coal, mainly from the coal, then the carbon footprint will be more, not more than the IC engine vehicle, but it is a considerable one when used for the electric vehicle. If you consider the carbon footprint, if in generally we don't think of carbon footprint as a technical, as a engineer, as a student of electrical engineering, we need to think of both carbon footprint and also in the case of both direct emission and indirect emissions. General ಆಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಮನುಷ್ಯರು they are not don't think about the carbon footprint. all their all think there in their mind is electric vehicle is won't release the greenhouse gas emissions. It is a free, environmental free, that is a eco-friendly vehicle. So but as an engineer, electrical engineer, we need to think you electric vehicles in the background, they have emit the, in the indirect emissions, they have releases the greenhouse emissions if power is generated from the coal. If not, power is generated from the renewable energy sources, then the green carbon footprint produced in the electric vehicle are very less. Then electricity generation, there is a carbon emissions, charging carbon emissions, battery manufacturing and motor manufacturing carbon emissions, finally vehicle operation. Life cycle assessment, it includes both direct and indirect emissions. So it is a method used to evaluate the environmental impact of an electric vehicle throughout its entire life. So it may be battery production, vehicle manufacturing, transportation, operation, recycling and disposal. Recycling is nothing but if you use the same battery element you design, can be reused to design the new battery, then the recycling may be a considerable thing. It won't make any much impact on the environment. So as I said, if the electricity grid emission factor, if the electricity produced to charge the electric vehicle is from the coal, or is from the solar, or either it is from the wind, either it is from the hydro or nuclear, those are the major concern when we talk about the electric vehicle carbon footprint. If the electricity generated from the coal, then the carbon footprint is more. If the electricity generated from the renewables like solar, wind and hydro, carbon footprint are very less. The same thing, renewable, whether it is a charging, the charging the electric vehicle is from the solar or wind, and also it may be related to smart charging, or it may be vehicle to grid also. In the last class we discussed, always we think of about taking the supply from the to charge the electric vehicle from the grid to the vehicle, that is a G2V, and we cannot we don't think about supplying the same battery charge into the grid when during the peak period. That is nothing but the vehicle to grid. Most of the almost 2 to 3 students have not joined in the yesterday class. I will brief about the vehicle to grid once again. Grid, there is, we think we know about the grid to vehicle. Electric vehicle ನ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಬೇಕು, ಆ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಗ್ರಿಡ್ ಇಂದ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತು. ಆ process ನ ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಗ್ರಿಡ್ ಟು ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. There is one more process or one more technology that is there, V2G, that is vehicle to grid. ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಅದರ್ಥ, ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ನ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಯಾವ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇಸ್ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ. ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ 2 types ಆಫ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಿಂಗ್ ಹೇಳಿದಂಗೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಡ್ಯೂರೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಪೀಕ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಸಿಟಿ ತಾರೀಫ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ 8 rupees 1 kWh ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಯಾವಾಗ ಪೀಕ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವಾಗ, ಸಾಯಂಕಾಲ 6 ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ಯಾಕ್ ಪೀಕ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೇವೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಇಸ್ ಯೂಸೇಜ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಈವ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಅಂಡ್ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ರನ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ 24 hours, ಬಟ್ ವೇರ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ದ ಪೀಕ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಇಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ 6 to 9 PM. ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ನಾವು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ನ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ತಾರಿಫ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ 8 rupees ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ನಾವು ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ನ ನಾವು ಆಫ್ ದ ಪೀಕ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಧ್ಯರಾತ್ರಿ 1 ಗಂಟೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ 11 ಗಂಟೆ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ 12 ಗಂಟೆ 1 ಗಂಟೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅರ್ಲಿ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಬಿಫೋರ್ 6 PM, ಬಿಫೋರ್ ಅರ್ಲಿ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ನಾವು ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಎ ಆಫ್ ಪೀಕ್ ಟೈಮ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪೀಕ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಯಾರು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಆಫ್ ಪೀಕ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಆ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ನಾವು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ನ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಪರ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಬಹಳ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, 5 rupees ವರೆಗೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಪೀಕ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆದ್ರೆ 8 rupees ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನಾವು ಅದೇ ಪೀಕ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಫ್ ಪೀಕ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ 11 ರಾತ್ರಿ ಹೊತ್ತು ನಾವು ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಡಿಮೆ ರೇಟಿಗೆ, ಅದನ್ನೇ ನಾವು ಪೀಕ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಗ್ರಿಡ್ ಗೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರೈನ್ ಅಥವಾ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, ಆ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ನ ಗ್ರಿಡ್ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಟು ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ದ ಪೀಕ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಗ್ರಿಡ್ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ, ದೆನ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಯೂಸರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಯೂಸರ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, 5 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನ 8 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಪವರ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಪವರ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಪೀಕ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಅಂದ ಗ್ರಿಡ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಲೋಡ್ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಡ್ರಾ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಗ್ರಿಡ್. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಎಮೋಷನಲ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್, ಆರ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ that is technical stress. Then overloading of the transformers might be happen. So with respect to the power system also, we can save we can save the system. With respect to the user also, user will get the benefited. 5 rupees ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು 8 rupees ಮಾರಿದ್ರೆ, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಇರೋ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ನ, ಬ್ಯಾಟರಿ ಇರೋ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ನ ಅಗೇನ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಗಿವಿಂಗ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಟು ದ grid idre, that is nothing but the vehicle to grid. That concept is called as vehicle to grid concept. So battery recycling, usually battery is designed madlike we go for the lithium, nickel, cobalt. If we reuse the, once the battery is drained off, andre usually drained off agಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ we don't think of about it, the state of charge comes to the zero. Usually the batteries we need to replace the condition when if the SOC is less than 80%, 75 to 80%. 70 SOC 75 to 80% iದ್ರೆ then sorry SOH 75 to 80% then we need to replace the battery. if if we without throwing the battery to the environment, if we use the same material for the designing the new battery, then the second life of the, if you go for that is nothing but the second life of the battery, that complete process is called as circular economy. Recycling the same material for designing the new battery, that is nothing but the circular economy. So if you use the uh, same material for the redesigning, it leads to the less global warming, carbon dioxide, and cleaner air and better public health. SOx, less acid rain and pollution. If you use the electric vehicle, the noise is very less, then it leads to the quieter cities. That means environmental benefits for by using the electric vehicle. Electric vehicle releases the less global warming, less carbon dioxide. It leads to the less global warming. If you use the electric vehicle, nitrogen oxide is will be less, then it leads to the cleaner air and better public health. SOx, less acid rain and pollution. The noise will be less. In turn, uh, the city will be less noisy or quieter cities. All import, there will be lesser dependence on the imported fossil fuels. Now, because a petrol car emits about 2.3 kg of carbon dioxide for every liter of petrol burned. 1 ಲೀಟರ್ ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಬರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನೀವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯಿಂದ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಬರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಮತ್ತು ಹೋಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ 1 ಲೀಟರ್ ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ರಿಲೀಸಿಂಗ್ 2.3 kg ಆಫ್ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಟು ದ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ನೆನಪು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ನೀವು ಕಾರ್ನ 15 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ ಓಡಿಸ್ತೀರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ನೀವು ಅದರಿಂದ ಅರ್ಥ ನಿಮ್ಮ ದುಡ್ಡು ಕಳೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳೋದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ 2.5 kg ಅಷ್ಟು ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ನ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಗೆ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀರಿ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. ನೀವು ಬೈಕ್ ನ 50 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ ಓಡಿಸ್ತೀರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ ನೆನಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 2.5 kg ಅಷ್ಟು, ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ 2.5 kg ಅಷ್ಟು ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ನ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದೀವಿ ಅಂತ. ಒಂದ್ಸಲಿ ಹಂಗೆ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ, ನಮ್ ದಾವಣಗೆರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ರನ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಲೀಟರ್ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ನಮ್ಮ ದಾವಣಗೆರೆ ಒಂದೇ ಸಿಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಲೀಟರ್ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ನೋಡಿ. ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲೈಡ್ ಬೈ 2.3 ಮಾಡಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕೆಜಿ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಸುಮ್ಮ ಚಾಟ್ ಜಿಪಿಟಿ ಕೊಡಿ ನೋಡಿ, ಬರುತ್ತೇನೋ ಇದು. ದಾವಣಗೆರೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದೇ ಸಿಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಲೀಟರ್ ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ನಾವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ನೋಡಿ, ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಲೀಟರ್. ಹಿಸ್ಟಾರಿಕಲ್ ಡಾಟಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಡಾಟಾ ಎಲ್ಲ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ದಾವಣಗೆರೆ ಎಂದ ಸಿಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ, ಅರ್ಬನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಖರ್ಚಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ.
$70,000 to 85,000 ಲೀಟರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ.
75 to 80,000. ಸೊ 75 ಅಂದ್ರೆ 85, 80 ಅನ್ಕೋಣ. 80,000 ಒಂದು ಲೀಟರ್ಗೆ 2.3 ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲೈಡ್ ಬೈ 2.3 ಅಂದ್ರೆ 1,84,000 kg. 1,84,000 kg ಅಷ್ಟು ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಪ್ರತಿ ದಿನ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಒಂದು ದಿನ. ಅದೇ 1 ಇಯರ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, 1 ಇಯರ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲೈಡ್ ಬೈ 365 ಡೇಸ್. 365 ಡೇಸ್ಗೆ 6 ಕೋಟಿ, 6.5 ಕೋಟಿ ಅಷ್ಟು, ಒಂದು ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ 6.5 ಕೋಟಿ ಅಷ್ಟು ಕೆಜಿ. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು 6.5 ಕೋಟಿ ಇನ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಟನ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ವಿಂಟಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡಬಹುದು. ಎಷ್ಟು ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ವಿ ನಾವು ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು. 6.5 ಕೋಟಿ, ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ 6 ಕೋಟಿ ಕೆಜಿ ಅಷ್ಟು ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ನಾವು ಎವ್ರಿ ಇಯರ್ ಬರೀ ದಾವಣಗೆರೆ ಅಂತ ಒಂದೇ ಸಿಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇನ್ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು, ಡೆಲ್ಲಿ, ಹೈದರಾಬಾದ್, ಮುಂಬೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದ್ರಿ? ಡಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆದ್ರೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್? ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ 31 ಡಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ. ಪ್ರತಿ ಡಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೇ ಕೇಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇದ್ರ 3ರಷ್ಟು ಅಥವಾ 5ರಷ್ಟು ಮೈಸೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಹುಬ್ಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ 10ರಷ್ಟು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, 10ರಷ್ಟು ಗುಲ್ಬರ್ಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಲ್ಲಿ 20ರಷ್ಟು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಹೇಳೋದಾದ್ರೆ. ಇನ್ ಮುಂಬೈ, ಡೆಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳೋದೇ ಬೇಡ. ಸೊ ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಎನ್ವೈರನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದೀವಿ ನಾವು ಡೈಲಿ ರನ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ನ. ಬಹಳ ಒಳ್ಳೇದು. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರನೇ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ನೇ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಪ್ರಮೋಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರನೇ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಸಮ್ ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಇನ್ಸೆಂಟಿವ್ಸ್. Those are nothing but the proposed policies by the government. Maybe some policies are from the state government, some policies are from the central government. So that is policies and incentives. So why we need government policies? Energy security, reduced dependence on imported oil. ಈಗ ಅದೇ ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಗಲಾಟೆ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ, ವಾರ್ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಸಾರಿ ನಮ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ನಾವು ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಇರಾನ್ಗೆ ಯು ಎಸ್ ಗೆ ವಾರ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಇನ್ನು ಮತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ಈಗ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಹಾರ್ಮೋಸ್ ಜಲಸಂಧಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಇದು ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ನು ಎಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾರ್ಮೋಸ್ ಜಲಸಂಧಿ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ 20% ಆಫ್ ದ 20 ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ, ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್ ರಾಂಗ್, ಇಫ್ ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ಸೊ 20% ಆಫ್ ದ 20 to 25% ಆಫ್ ದ ಫ್ಯೂಯಲ್ ನಮಗೆ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಜಲಸಂಧಿಯಿಂದನೇ ಇಂಡಿಯಾಗೆ ಬರೋದು. ಅದು ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ 1/4 ಆಫ್ ದ ಫ್ಯೂಯಲ್ ಡಿಫಿಷಿಯನ್ಸಿ ತೋರಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ನಾವು 25% ಅವ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಇನ್ನು ಕತಾರ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, UAE ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ನಾವು ಅರಬ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಇಂದಾನೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಡಿಪೆಂಡೆನ್ಸಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ವೆನ್ ವಿ ಬೂಸ್ಟ್ ಅಪ್ ದಿಸ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್, ದಟ್ ಡಿಪೆಂಡೆನ್ಸಿ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಬಿ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇ ವಾರ ಆದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಇಟ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ಅಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಸ್. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಇಂಡಿಪೆಂಡೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಎನಿ ಕೇಸ್, ನಾಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ವಿತ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ದ ಫ್ಯೂಯಲ್ ಆರ್ ಆಯಿಲ್, ಯಾವುದೇ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ನಮಗೆ ಅದು ಹಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು, ಅದು ನಮಗೆ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಂಗಿಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ದಂಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶ ನಾವು ಮುಂದುವರಿಸಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ವಿ ಗೋ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಮೋರ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ಸ್, ದೆನ್ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ದೇರ್ and reduces the greenhouse gas emissions. That is it meets the climate goals also. ನಾವೇನೀಗ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೋ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ G20 ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಶೃಂಗ ಸೊ ದೋಸ್ ಕಮಿಟೀಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ದೋಸ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಇಂದ ಯಾವುದೇ ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಮೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಒಂದು ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಕರೆದರೆ, ದ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಅಜೆಂಡಾ ಇಸ್ ವಿತ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ದ ಗ್ಲೋಬಲ್ ವಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್, ವಿತ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ದ ಕ್ಲೈಮೇಟ್. ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಗ್ಲೋಬಲ್ ವಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ನ ರಿಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಮೇಜರ್ ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಗೋ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್, ದೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ರಿಡ್ಯೂಸಸ್ ದ ಗ್ಲೋಬಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್, ಇಟ್ reduces the global warming also. And industry growth, so we can go have the encourages with the investment and innovation. ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯೂ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿ ಲೈಫ್ ನ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬರಂಗ್ ನೋಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು, ಅಥವಾ ರೀಯೂಸಬಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಡಿಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಆ ರೀತಿ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಇನೋವೇಷನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಎನ್ಕರೇಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ದಂಗಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇನ್ ಟರ್ನ್ ಇಟ್ ಗ್ರೋಸ್ ದ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿ, ಇನ್ ಟರ್ನ್ the GDP of the nation is going to be improved. And once we have the EV manufacturing company, then it creates the new job for the electrical engineers or for the new ecosystem. And some of the countries have the international, they have the policies, they have the subsidies, they have for the they have less given the subsidy for the buying the electric vehicle. And they also with respect to the what we say, yearly we going to give the insurance, that and going to be reduced in the many of the countries. European countries, USA, China, Japan and Norway, they are more advanced, but they are more advanced for the electric vehicle manufacturing, and there are more number of vehicles on the road in these countries rather than compared to the India. So Indian government also given some policies. Those policies are National Electric Mobility Mission, FAME scheme, where in the FAME scheme there are there are more subsidy for they are given for the company manufacturing EVs, not for the users. And PLI scheme, battery swapping policy, PME drive, state EV policies. Most of the policies are for the company manufacturers, EV manufacturers. Some subsidies are given in the India for the buyers also, with respect to the tax, 5% tax given for the electric vehicle. So these are the different schemes. We don't know, till now we don't have know these policies, whether their policies are there for the electric vehicle. Now only we come to know these policies in India or in the abroad. So charging infrastructure, we need to build the charging infrastructure for the public and for the private, and for the fast charging and battery swapping. And also we need to maintain some standards in the generation and in the designing the charging station also. Incentives are given from the Indian government for the GST reduction. It is about currently less than 5%, and their subsidy they are given for the road tax also, and the registration fee. There will be registration for fee for the IC engine vehicles. That little leeway of a given for the registration fee also, and they will give the if they want to give the income tax benefits and subsidies in buying the purchasing the electric vehicle also. Future policy directions. Carbon tax is one of the main thing. If this going to be uh, come forward for the releasing this policy carbon tax, it may majorly contribute to for the marketing of electric vehicle. ಅಂದ್ರೆ 1 kg ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಿವಿಯಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ 1 ಲೀಟ್ರು ರನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ 2.3 kg ಅಷ್ಟು ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಇಷ್ಟು ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ನೀವು ಕಟ್ಟಬೇಕು. if you are releasing 2.1, if you are using 1 liter petrol and cause for the 2.3 kg of carbon dioxide emission to the environment, you need to pay this much of tax. ಆ ರೀತಿ ಬಂದ್ರು ಮಾತ್ರ, ಈ ರೀತಿ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಬಂದ್ರು ಮಾತ್ರ we can have, there are more number of electric vehicle, we can find the more number of electric vehicle on the road, otherwise it is very difficult. ಈಗ ನಾವು 9 ಗಂಟೆ ಕಾಲೇಜಿಗೆ ಬಂದು 9 ಗಂಟೆ ಒಳಗೆ ಬಯೋಮೆಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೇ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಬಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವು 9 ಗಂಟೆ ಒಳಗೆ ಬರ್ತೀವಿ. ಇಲ್ಲ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಎ ರಿಲ್ಯಾಕ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ 5 minutes ಅಂದ್ರೆ 5 minutes ರಿಲ್ಯಾಕ್ಸೇಷನ್ ತಗೊಂತೀವಿ. 10 minutes ರಿಲ್ಯಾಕ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಇದ್ರೆ 10 minutes ರಿಲ್ಯಾಕ್ಸೇಷನ್ ತಗೊಂತೀವಿ. 15 minutes ರಿಲ್ಯಾಕ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಇದ್ರೆ 15 minutes ರಿಲ್ಯಾಕ್ಸೇಷನ್ ತಗೊಂತೀವಿ. ನಿಮಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿಗೆ ಅಲೋ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ 85% ಅಟೆಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 85% ಅಟೆಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. 75 ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 75ನೇ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. 50 ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 50% ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಟೆಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಮೀಟರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಬರೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಕಾಲೇಜಿಗೆ. ಆ ರೀತಿ ನಾವು 90% ಕ್ರೈಟೀರಿಯಾ ಅಟೆಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ 90% ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರ್ತೀರ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿನೇ ನಾವು ಎನರ್ಜಿ ನೀವು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ 1 kg ಆಫ್ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಇಂದ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ನೀವು ಕಟ್ಟಬೇಕು ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟಿಗೆ ಅಂತಂದು ಅನೌನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆಬ್ವಿಯಸ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಒಂದು ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ರು ಹೋಗೋ ಜಾಗದಾಗ ಇಬ್ರು ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಬರ್ತೀವಿ, ಅವ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. ಈಗ ನಾ ಬೇತೂರಿಂದ ದಾವಣಗೆರೆ ಕಾಲೇಜಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ, ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು ಯಾರೋ ಬರೋನ್ನ ಕೂರ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತೀವಿ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನ ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇದನ್ನು ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ರೀತಿ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಟೇಕನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಟು ರಿಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ದ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಟು ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ ದ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಸಸ್ಟೈನಬಿಲಿಟಿ. ಅಂಡ್ ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ದ ಝೀರೋ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಝೋನ್ಸ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಝೀರೋ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಝೋನ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ದಾವಣಗೆರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದೋ ಒಂದು ಏರಿಯಾಪ್ಪ, ನಿನಗೀಗ ಬಹಳ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ದಾವಣಗೆರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತವೆ, ಬಹಳ ಕ್ರೌಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಬಹಳ ಕ್ರೌಡ್ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಏರಿಯಾ ಯಾವುದು ದಾವಣಗೆರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ? ಯಾವ ಏರಿಯಾ ದಾವಣಗೆರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹಳ ಕ್ರೌಡ್ ಇದೆ, ಬಹಳ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಬಹಳ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು?
ಬಸ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಸ್, ರೈಲ್ವೆ ಸ್ಟೇಷನ್ಸ್,
ಗಾಂಧಿ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಅಥವಾ ಇದನ್ನೇ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ನಾವು, ಅದು ಮಂಡಿಪೇಟೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಗಾಂಧಿ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಅದೇ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು. ಅದ್ನೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಝೀರೋ ಎಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಝೋನ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಇದ್ರು ಮಾತ್ರ ಆ ರೋಡಿಗೆ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು, ಆ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು. IC ಇಂಜಿನ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಆ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಬರಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಆ ಏರಿಯಾ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ 1 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಇಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು ಗಾಂಧಿ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಆ ಕಡೆ ಬಸ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ವರೆಗೂ, ಗಾಂಧಿ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಇಂದ ಈ ಕಡೆ ಅಶೋಕ ಟ್ಯಾಕೀಸ್ ವರೆಗೂ, ಗಾಂಧಿ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಇಂದ ಈ ಕಡೆ ಜಯದೇವ್ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ವರೆಗೂ, ಗಾಂಧಿ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಇಂದ ಈ ಕಡೆ ರೈಲ್ವೆ ಸ್ಟೇಷನ್ ವರೆಗೂ, ಆ ರೇಡಿಯಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 500 ಅಥವಾ 200 ಮೀಟರ್ಸ್ ರೇಡಿಯಸ್ ನ ಝೀರೋ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಝೋನ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಆ ಝೀರೋ ಎಮಿಷನ್ ಝೋನ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಎಂಟರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎಂಟರ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ದಟ್ ಝೋನ್, no other vehicles can enter. ಆ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗೆ major work is going, major business is happening in those areas only, major vehicles come on across those roads only, then people will prefer for the electric vehicle. So if we want to enter those zone, we need to go for the electric vehicle, or by other means we need to go by walk. So thereby we can reduce the carbon emission to the environment. Then third one, renewable energy charging. So far we are, as we said, so far 60% of the power generation is from only coal. That is a not that is a non-renewable energy source. So it pollutes the more pollutants, releases more pollutant to the environment. So if we alternately, if we charge our vehicle from the renewable energy sources, it may be solar or it may be wind or any hydro, then that leads to the zero emissions to the environment. That is nothing but the renewable charging. And if you go for the smart grid, that is the maintenance and controlled by the, not in the conventional way, in the smart way. If you do go for that one, then it raises the zero emissions. Then the battery recycling, ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿನ ರೀಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂತ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದೇ ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿನ ರೀಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡುವಷ್ಟು ಇನೋವೇಷನ್ ಅಥವಾ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಇಫ್ ಇಸ್ ಡನ್ in the innovation laboratory or research laboratory, then that also leads to the uh, uh, emissionless or less emission prone to the greenhouse emissions. These are the future policies if we consider. So main policy first ಬರ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು ಯಾವುದು, ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಬರಬೇಕು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಎನರ್ಜಿ ರಿಲೀಸ್, ಇಷ್ಟು ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕಟ್ಟಬೇಕಂತ ಬರಬೇಕು. ದೆನ್ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕಲಿ ದ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಬೈ ದ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಐಸಿ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So challenges: battery supply chain, charging stations, consumer awareness, grid capacity, raw materials. These are the challenges what we discussed. Those are categorized here. Battery supply chain ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಚಾರ್ಜಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, there are less charging station. Consumer don't know about the electric vehicle, whether it is good for the health or good bad for the health. They don't know. They buy for preferring the um, their conveniency, easily fill the tank and less purchase price. They think of only those things. And grid capacity, that is the important thing, because if you increase the electric vehicles, then the capacity of the grid also should be increases. Otherwise there is stress and strain happens to the power system and it may collapse somewhere. And the raw materials that we are using, that are prone to the, when we dispose the batteries, that harms the, pollutes the environment. We need to think of the raw materials used for the machine design or battery design or model design. So this completes the first half of this environmental aspect, that is cost and environmental aspect. Now in the remaining 50% we do in discuss in the next class. So as now we go for the uh, test, MCQ test. Okay, go one by one. Typical annual maintenance cost of EV is approximately 8 to 12,000, 20 to 30,000, 25 to 35,000, or 40 to 50,000. The formula for total cost of the owner or TCO includes purchase cost only, fuel cost only, purchase plus operating cost minus resale value, or insurance only. For an electric vehicle traveling 15,000 km per year at 6 km per kilowatt hour, annual energy consumption is at 8 rupees per kilowatt hour. The annual charging cost for 2500 kilowatt hour is which factor is examined in sensitivity analysis? Tire color, electricity price, seat material, vehicle color. Which greenhouse gas is most commonly associated with the transport emissions? Carbon dioxide, helium, argon, neon. Life cycle assessment evaluates only vehicle operation, only battery operation recycling, environmental impact throughout life cycle, only manufacturing. Petrol car emits approximately how much carbon dioxide per liter of petrol burned? 0.5 kg, 1.2 kg, 2.3 kg, 5 kg. Which electricity source generally results in lower EV emissions? Coal, diesel, solar, furnace oil. Vehicle to grid is associated with battery disposal, smart charging, engine tuning, fuel refining. Battery recycling mainly focuses on recovering wood and plastic, lithium, nickel, cobalt, glass only, rubber only. Which Indian policy promotes EV adoption? FAME scheme, M.Narega scheme, PMGSY, UDAN. Current GST on EVs mentioned in the lecture is 18%, 12%, 5%, 28%. A key environmental benefit of electric vehicles is higher noise pollution, lower emissions, increased oil use, higher SOx emissions. Answers 1B, 2C, 3C, 4C, 5B, 6A, 7C, 8B, 8C, 9C, 10B, 11A, 12C, 13C, 14C, 15B, 16B, 17A, 18C, 19B, 20B. So, how much you got?
16, sir.
16. Then, ಮತ್ತೆ 15.
16, sir.
16. Okay. 16, 15, 16, 16. Good number. So once again, we refreshed whatever we studied, we have learned this session. We have discussed on economic and environmental aspects of electric vehicle. In that one, why it is necessary, this aspects, economical and environmental aspects, why it is necessary, what is its importance, what is the global perspective of this electric vehicle, and how it is sustainable in the transportation. Then first we consider the economics of electric vehicle. Depending upon the factors which affects the EV adoption or vehicle price, battery cost, electricity tariff, charging infrastructure, maintenance and battery replacement, and government subsidies. These are the cost components of the electric vehicle from the scratch to the road. This is a comparison between the electric vehicle and IC vehicle with respect to the cost. And initial purchase cost parameters, operating cost parameters, maintenance cost parameters, and comparison of the annual maintenance cost of the two vehicles. And finally, we discussed the total cost of the ownership, that is TCO. It includes from the purchase cost to the subsidy that is given by the government, and simple problems on the cost. Then cost benefit analysis, sensitive analysis, case study we have taken for the 10-year of energy comparison, economic comparison between the electric car and petrol car. So overall we can save for the 10 years, we can save 3,20,000 if you use the electric car compared to the IC engine car. It is only with respect to the cost, but the larger impact on the environment if you use the electric car rather than the IC engine vehicle. So that is discussed here in the environmental aspects with respect to air pollution, climate change, global warming, and greenhouse gases. These are the sources of road transport emissions. So greenhouse gases that emits from the vehicle, and also we think discussed on the carbon footprint. It is not only the driving emission, driving which emits the greenhouse emissions, that called a carbon footprint. It is actually the from the materials that we are going to use from the scratch to develop the vehicle to the when it comes to the road. That all thing we that all emissions that are releases from the vehicle, that is called as carbon emissions, that is classified as direct emissions and indirect emissions. Direct emissions are nothing but when the vehicle move on the road, the emissions that are released from the vehicle are direct emissions. Back end, while designing, whatever the designing and charging, the whatever the emissions that are happened that are releasing, those are called as direct indirect emissions. Carbon footprint of the IC vehicle is shown, and for the EV vehicles also shown, and it is a life cycle assessment and grid emissions factor. Obviously, if the power generation is from which source we are using, and if you use the renewable energy integration, that is if you charge the vehicle by the solar, wind, and smart charging and vehicle to grid technologies, recycling of the battery is one of the parameter. And how if you use the electrical vehicle, how it benefits to the environmental, that is explained here. And the policies and incentives given from the abroad countries and Indian government countries we have discussed. And future challenges, future policy directions or future challenges are carbon tax, zero emission zones, renewable energy charging, and smart grid and battery recycling. These are the challenges what we face if you go for more number of electric vehicles on the road or production of more number of electric vehicles. So applications, emerging technologies, solid state batteries, wireless charging, vehicle to grid, AI energy management, autonomous electric vehicles. These are the emerging technologies in the electric vehicle. That is nowadays, now we are using the lithium ion batteries. Rather than going for the lithium ion batteries, we can go for the solid state batteries. And wide charging we are using. We can move for the wireless charging also, what we explained in the previous sessions. And we have the grid to vehicle power flow. You can go for the vehicle to grid also, and managing the energy by using AI, and going for the autonomous vehicle. Autonomous vehicle means without without the interference of the driver, automatically if the electric vehicle is running, then it is called as autonomous vehicle. Then economic benefits if you use the electric vehicles are lower operating cost, lower maintenance cost, and energy security. With respect to the environmental, lower emissions, better air quality, reduced fossil use. With respect to the government role, they have given the incentives, infrastructure, and regulations, and renewable integration they have to make. And future is smart charging, circular economy, and sustainable mobility. These are the future scope and future aim of our when we produce the electric vehicle. So this completes your today's session with respect to the economic and sustainable energy policies.